Hey, it's Chrissy and Amanda.
Two girls from Saskatchewan, Canada, living the Reiki life while working the 9 to 5.
Hey everyone, welcome in. This is episode 37. And if you are listening to this as it is released, it is November 1st. So we just passed through Halloween and the awesome month of November October. And I can't wait for Christy and I to share our updates with you because October was a really interesting month. We had that super moon in October and we just the veil was thin. And I know Christy and I both had some experiences. So Christy, hello. And what's been going on with you?
Yeah, hey. October is always an interesting month. Like in the work that we do, I find it's just like we're aware of our surroundings, like our sensitivities get heightened up. So in the month of October, it just seems like, that veil between the spirit world and our world is very thin, where you can see spirits more easy. I guess I would say, yeah. And you can feel them. Like, this is like my experience. And I kind of had a weird experience the other night. So I was trying to fall asleep and Troy was beside me. He was trying to fall asleep and he was like tossing and turning. And then I was, and then the dog sleeps in the bed as well. And she's tossing and turning. I was like, my goodness, why can't we fall asleep? And this was a couple days before the full moon. And it's funny, like I usually can't sleep around the new moon, but this was the full moon. And I happened to just look over and I looked over at Troy and it looked like he was sitting up in bed. And I was like, well, like, what are you doing? Like, what? No wonder you can't sleep. You're just sitting up. I was like, and then I like looked harder and I was like, well, is that even Troy? And then I looked down and he was laying down. And then I looked back up and it was gone. And I was like, okay, what the hell was that? And I was like, was it like Troy's astral body leaving to go like to dreamland? Or was it like a ghost hovering over his bed? It was the creepiest thing. Like, I guess, like I was scared, but I wasn't. You know, that feeling where you're just kind of like, huh, interesting. And I just wasn't sure what it was. And we still tossed and turned the whole night. Like, I don't think I fell asleep till probably like 1. And then, we had to get up super early. So, that wasn't fun.
Yeah, that was quite the experience, funny enough. And I remember texting you about the experience I had, which I'll share. And then you told me that, and I was like, what is going on? It's like, Troy's just leaving his body because he's sleeping, right? And he's going to go to another plane.
Oh, I don't know. Or if that ghost was over the bed, I was like, what the hell? Because I got strong boundaries in the bedroom. Like, you do not come in there and you do not bother me. But I cleared it with my tuning fork the next night because I was sleeping by myself because Troy went back to work. And I slept great. But another weird thing is I've been seeing so many shadows out of the corner of my eye in the house, in the backyard, like even at work, down the hallway. I seen someone just coming down the hallway, look, and they're not there. And it's wild. Like right now, it's just like, I don't know. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it is bizarre. But I mean, again, though, it is that time of year. October is such a, I don't want to say spooky, but like kind of special month for that. And I personally love it. I definitely embrace it. I even find my like Reiki sessions have been really good with communicating with spirit and all that. So I do love this time of season. I think you have the right idea. Like, be grounded, set boundaries, and just you're doing the right things for sure.
Yeah. Like I don't ever want to instill fear in anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's that awareness that, hey, if you see spirits from time to time, you might see a few more in the month of October. And remember, like, we're the humans. They're the spirits. We always have more power all the time.
So important. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what? I want you to share your story. This is even weirder.
I texted Christy right after this because I was like, so I was in my laundry room in the basement and I was obviously like sorting laundry and whichever. And all of a sudden I saw like the back of a man walking across the door. Like my laundry room is like its own separate room. And then I was like, oh, like how did Todd get in the basement without me hearing him coming down the stairs? It's like, that's weird. And then I was like, kind of thinking about it. And then I go upstairs and I was like, hey, like, were you down in the basement? And he's like, no. And I was like, what? And I was like, no. I had an interesting Reiki session. I'm not going to share the details of it, but anyways, I think this man was kind of hanging around from a Reiki session I had. So it was just interesting because I've never seen a spirit like that with like my naked eye before. Usually it's like my third eye and I can like see them and describe them. But this was with my naked eye. So that was a little like different. And so I messaged Christy and I said, hey, I think there's a spirit like hanging around. And she's like, well, if you need help, like getting rid of them, let me know. And I was like, yes, it's totally why I was messaging you. So it was good. We met on Zoom and we just honestly like pushed the aura and the vibration up and out so high. It was like, you don't have to cross over because he wasn't ready, but you can't stay here. And we both just saw it disappear. I can't even remember what I saw now. Do you remember what you saw?
I saw like a big bubble like around your house,
Yeah.
and then he bounced off the bubble like he couldn't come back in.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that's like pretty much what I saw too. It was pretty funny. We were both seeing something similar, anyways. And yeah, and then I haven't had any experiences since. Oh, that's not true. The bathroom lights, the light in my bathroom came on upstairs. I was like
Ah,
down in the lower level. I live in a 4-level split. And I'm in the living room and all of a sudden I see the light in the bathroom turn on and I was like, okay. And I was like, well, logically, right? I was like, well, I could have just like, because I was cleaning the bathroom. So maybe the switch kind of got stuck funny and then it just like
hmm,
finally gravity took over. So I like turned it off and I was like, and if it happens again, then I'll, dig into it. But it didn't happen again. So that was probably just nothing. But I thought it was funny because it did happen right after that other incident. So of course I'm like heightened. But yeah.
of
And
course.
that full moon in October was gnarly for everybody, it seemed like. That
Oh yeah,
fire full moon.
yeah. That was a tough one. Oh, and even like, well, yeah, just emotionally too. So much stuff came up, but on the other side, a lot of clarity came through. So it's like, like that storm comes, brews everything up, and then the dust settles, and then the sky parts, and then you have the clarity. So it's always like when you go through it, it's worth it at that time. Just, keep going. But yeah, about the lights, that's funny because something else happened to me too. Remember those electric candles I have with the remote?
Mm.
Yeah. Troy and I were in the kitchen and he's like, hey, did you turn on those candles? And I was like, no. I was like, did you? And he's like, oh, I must have bumped the remote. And I was like, no, Troy, there's no way. I tried to like bump the remote with something and there's no way they would have turned on. And two of the candles turned on and they were red. And I was like, this is weird.
Ah. So did you turn them off?
Yeah, I turned them off and they haven't turned on since. So, but I think I need to do a clearing of my house again. I need to open the windows and get my tuning fork and my clearing spray and just kind of do a once over. Because I didn't do that at the equinox. So, yeah, I'll do that now.
Yeah, and do it before winter. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, get that air moving through and yeah.
Yeah, smart. Very good ideas. All right. Astrology?
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, so if you are listening to this on the day we release it on November 1st, it's actually a new moon today in Scorpio. So happy new moon. Scorpio is a water sign, and Scorpio is also the death card in tarot, which is all about transforming and shifting. So this could be a time of quick transformation, lots of intensity and passion as well. I find this water sign can move rather quickly, embraces the newness that is coming at this time. And after that, we have the full moon on November 15th in Taurus, referred to as the beaver supermoon. So this is also a supermoon. I thought it was really weird that we had two back to back. And I even was like, is this right? But I guess it is. So Taurus's sign in the tarot deck is the Hierophant, which is mainly associated with tradition and convention and uniform things. So I know, Christy, you're a Taurus, so you
Mhm.
might, get hit a little bit with this full moon, especially when it's a super moon. So I don't know if people know this, but super moons appear larger and brighter, and which also means its energy is more amplifying and has a bigger influence. And honestly, I didn't know that. Did you know that?
Well, I knew they appeared brighter in the sky, like they were closer to Earth, but I didn't realize that the energy was amplified.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like I should have known that.
I know, me too. Reading that, I was like, how did I not know this?
Yeah.
So now we do.
Yep.
Taurus is also an earth sign, and so it's a really good grounded energy. So it's kind of perfect for this time of year, especially since it's like that beaver moon. So just like the beaver, it's time to prepare for the winter to come with gathering resources and maybe doing some hard work. And also time to reflect on what really gives you stability. So like what helps you feel grounded. You might feel really good on completing those projects that are around the house, since Taurus always makes me think of like my home and where I feel grounded. I know me personally, I'll be renovating my bathroom downstairs, which I'm really looking forward to. It's been a long time coming. And yeah, those are the focuses.
Yeah. That doesn't sound too bad. I feel like
Yeah,
we're out of the clear for a bit. The last couple months were a little rocky, but I don't know. I haven't looked into any retrogrades or anything like that. But
yeah,
moon wise, this sounds all right.
yeah. Yeah, we can handle anything after October.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I better knock on wood because you just never
Yeah.
know.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you had a weird October, reach out to us. Like the sickness in my house, like God, I don't know, it just seemed like this revolving door is super, super weird, but yeah, super, super good to be done.
Yep. Okay, should we get into this week's episode?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, so we sat down with Darren Marc. He just published a book about unveiling the power of the heart. So we sat down with him and we just had a really beautiful heart to heart conversation. And we talked about Reiki because he's a Reiki master as well. And I got a lot out of this conversation and I really enjoyed it.
When I was editing this, I was like, wow, it's one thing when you're having, I guess, a conversation, but when I could just sit back and listen, I was like, this is so good. Oh, not that I was surprised, but I was like, wow, this is really good. Like, I quite enjoyed this too. So hopefully, we know you will too.
Yeah, so sit back and make a cup of tea and enjoy.
Enjoy.
So we met Darren through Instagram. So it's really fun when you can make connections across the globe through the power of social media. Darren is a Reiki master and teacher, and he has written 3 books now, one of which we are going to discuss today called Unveiling the Power of the Heart. Darren is an intuitive and an open channel, and he has been working with Reiki and a higher frequency since his early 20s. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I first discovered Reiki in my early 20s. And though I
Awesome.
was not channeling at the time, that would in time lead me to discover my ability to channel.
That's amazing. We're really excited to
Yeah.
talk with you today and to hear your side of how Reiki found you. And you are, in fact, our first male guest on the podcast. So
Oh,
welcome.
cool.
Yeah,
Well, I'm happy to represent.
that's right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your Reiki journey and when did you hear the call to Reiki?
Sure. Well, in my early 20s, I met a woman who I still think of today as my very first spiritual teacher. She was herself a very gifted trance channel, as well as a Reiki master. And I began attending her channeling groups. And by way of attending her channeling groups, I was introduced to some of my spirit guides at the time that would speak through her. And shortly thereafter, one of them came into a dream of mine and very simply said, it's time for you to start to meditate. And so I began to meditate, or at least attempt to meditate, because in those days my experience of meditation was very different than it is now. But I noticed right away in meditation that I would feel a lot of energy around me. I would feel a lot of buzzing, tingling electromagnetic energy. And that's what led me to be drawn to Reiki. I don't remember the specific moment in which I heard about it, but there was something connected to feeling energy around me and naturally being drawn to Reiki to learn what it was I was experiencing.
Yeah, it seems
That's
like
amazing.
Reiki is the stepping stone to a lot of like different modalities. It just kind of introduces the chakra system and how to feel the energy, and then people kind of go from there.
Yes, yeah. I share that with people who take my classes all the time, and I share that by way of my own personal experience of knowing that Reiki has really opened me up in unexpected ways. Reiki is often just the beginning, the gateway into a whole new world of adventure.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because life has never been the same since we started our Reiki journey.
Sure, yeah. It keeps on unfolding in interesting ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like taking that blindfold off, and then once you do, you can't really ever put it back on.
Yeah, that's true. Well said. Yeah.
And when I don't know why I thought of that today. I think it's because that actually came through in a Reiki session. I saw a blindfold on somebody and I thought, did they put this on when I was over the third eye? And it kind of came back into my awareness today when I was just randomly driving, thinking about it. But I really connect in with your feeling the energy when you meditate. I remember I could almost feel like swirling balls of energy in my hands. It almost felt like that Mario fireball energy, just something even kind of cartoony is what I would picture, but I could feel that like swirling when I
Yeah.
first really started connecting into Reiki. And I thought, this is the coolest thing ever. I just wanted more. Give me more.
Sure. Yeah. And without a container such as Reiki to put it into, it can be a little overwhelming and perplexing. I know it was for me initially. My initial thought was, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so good to have a guide or someone to help kind of make sense of it.
That's the thing about Reiki, isn't it? It's often labeled infinitely intelligent life force energy. So there's always this infinite intelligence at work that's well beyond the comprehension of our linear intellectual minds. And I'm sure that you have experienced this as Reiki practitioners, and other Reiki practitioners listening have also experienced that the perfect client shows up at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
That
Absolutely.
Potentially you have, just as the practitioner, are experiencing something in your life, or have just experienced something in your life that's really relevant for the person who's on your table, and you have a little bit more to share with them that can uplift and inspire and heal them. So it's this infinite intelligence, this matrix of infinite intelligence at work. And I am a believer that there is more and more of that grace and synchronicity that's occurring on the planet right now.
Yeah, especially with the everything uplifting and like moving into a new frequency. I believe that too. And actually I had a really cool example of that just last week. We were supposed to record on a Thursday and we got the dates mixed up and we sent the link for the Friday, but then somebody ended up booking in with me that Thursday night. And it was just like all divinely, it's like she came at the perfect time. She really needed the session and we had never met before. And it was just, yeah, that other higher power at work. And I
Yeah,
love
it's
that
pretty
so
amazing.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fun to be in that energy and that flow.
it is fun. And that's
Yeah.
what it should be. It should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because on this path of both receiving Reiki and offering Reiki, there is this rewiring that's occurring in our brains. And today I was receiving a different modality, and I heard this voice, and the voice said, "Life is really hard." And I was able to identify this voice as a belief system that was coming up to be seen and to be healed. And so my spirit, or my higher self, knew what to do with it in that moment. And I just said, "Cancel. Yeah, life is fun."
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so we do have some control over how we're experiencing our lives, yeah, by the way that we're thinking. And Reiki is a very powerful energy healing modality that can facilitate that change. In particular, the mental emotional Seihei symbol, which can be utilized to change beliefs, to do that rewiring in our brains that's so necessary on our paths.
Give us that emotional support.
Yeah.
It absolutely. Yeah. We didn't ask you, but what kind of Reiki do you practice, or do you have more than one that you kind of? I know there's so many branches out now.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think of Reiki like yoga. There's the root, yeah, which I have come to know as hatha yoga, and then there are all the branches, yeah, all these different different branches of the root. Me personally, I practice Usui Reiki, and I've studied angelic Reiki as well, but it's primarily Usui Reiki with sound healing. That is my main modality. Yeah.
That's a nice pairing. The sound and
Yeah.
the angel. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same. Like Christy has her Usui, and I just got my master's in Usui. And then we both have like angel Reiki tied in with it. We work with angels as well when we do Reiki healing. And I really find that complements the work
Sure.
that we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And like we were speaking to earlier, when somebody receives their first Reiki level attunement, yeah, that usually opens them up to for example, working with angels, working with guides, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about this book that you wrote is channeled. And I know you're an intuitive and you do a lot of channeling, but how did that really start? Like, did that start after the
Yeah,
Reiki attunements?
it did. Yeah, I want to speak to it in this way. I think I've met a lot of people lately who are just beginning to awaken to their intuitive abilities. For some, it's quite unexpected. Like, just as an example, I met a friend for tea recently, and she said, "I've been having these unexpected experiences lately of being intuitive." And for those of you out there who are interested in accessing your intuition, and are interested in being channels, yeah, a Reiki attunement is a really great first step.
Yeah.
And with each and every Reiki attunement, one awakens more and more to these intuitive gifts that are just inherent within us all. For me personally, receiving my Reiki Master teacher level attunement was like a switch, like a light bulb. And I noticed after that, when I would place my hands on somebody's shoulders in the beginning of the session, that I would hear messages on their behalf. And the hearing was different from the very loud thoughts that I'm used to in my mind. It was a quieter, more like a gentle whisper. And this is what happens when you receive the attunements. Yeah, is that you awaken to your intuitive gifts, be it clairaudience or clairvoyance or whatever particular clair is your thing, or clairs. And it was shortly after that I began to channel. I had been familiar with channeling and interested in it for many years, having been introduced to it when I was in my early 20s. But there was one particular evening when it just happened. It just happened. I remember that evening very well because I was still working as a realtor, and I met a woman in my office, not to discuss real estate, but I was starting this little meetup group, and I had a cupcake from a particular cupcake place, and I had this particular tea, and I went home and I sat in meditation, and I remember there being like a stronger desire to channel than there had been in the past. And I just began to allow myself to make sound, to tone, and to let go a little bit more. And it just started coming through. And I remember after that, I thought, okay, well, this is no longer the case. But I thought, okay, well, I've got to drink this tea now every time I want to channel. This is the magic tea. But that's how it began for me. And I was not planning to write to channel a book, but that's what I was told shortly thereafter as I was channeling. And so I landed up sitting in meditation for many mornings and just allowing that to come through me.
So when you're sitting in meditation and channeling, are you like writing or typing at the same time, or how does that process work?
I am speaking. Yeah,
oh, speaking.
I'm a voice channel, and I recorded it into my phone, and then later on I would listen and type it out.
Oh, I like that. I never thought of doing a voice note. Yeah. Yeah, though I would imagine you could do it potentially more seamlessly by utilizing, I know there are some kind of apps that will actually type something out for you as you speak it. Of course there is, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good tool, though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And for those of you out there who are newer to this idea of channeling and you'd like to channel, what's been coming through me a lot for my Reiki clients is to just do some free form journaling in meditation in the morning. Like just allow your pen to start writing. I did that in my meditation today. That's another way in which I channel, is I just start writing as it comes through freehand. We're all channels in some way, and there's always information and guidance that's being received. We just have to be open and pay attention, because it's all over the place. We don't even necessarily have to be channeling words through us, but it can just be like a synchronistic experience where the universe is informing us of something in some way.
When you were in that meditative state and you were channeling and recording it, when you would go back and listen to it, was it almost like hearing it for the first time? Or were you...
That's a great question. When I channel, I am conscious of what's being said, but I'm searching for the right word, but like a little removed from it, if that makes sense. Yeah, like not fully conscious of it, but there enough to hear and to know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think I know there are a lot of, and I trance channels out there, really gifted trance channels who are completely out, so to speak, and don't remember anything. That's not me.
Do you find, I find that kind of, and it's only because I've never experienced channeling in that way, where it's
Yeah.
like it's almost like they've taken a back seat and someone else comes in the driver's seat
Right.
completely.
Yeah.
And I've heard like people say that that can be really taxing on your body. What do
That's
you think?
interesting. Yeah. Well, the kind of channeling that I do is what's commonly referred to as sharing space, right? And what you're speaking of is exactly as you said it, completely getting into the passenger seat and letting somebody else take over the ship completely.
Yeah.
And I personally, I cannot speak to it from personal experience because I don't channel in that way, but I have heard the same thing, that it can be taxing on the physical body. So I have heard the same thing. I've never had a conversation with another trance channel about that, but I have heard that.
Yeah, I've had some experiences like early on in the Reiki journey. I think I was practicing on you, Amanda, and all of a sudden I was like smoking. And I was like, what's going on? And I felt like that spirit trying to come into my body because I was making that motion like having a cigarette. And that freaked me out. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I like being in control of my own body. Like you can give me messages, but you don't need to take over. So I set that boundary because I was like, that's enough.
Yeah, I've I've heard similar stories from other trance channels about coming back afterwards and being surprised by what had transpired. Like,
That's wild.
Yeah. So that requires a very trusting relationship with your channeling guide, the one who is coming through and doing the work. Yeah.
So speaking of guides, like, are you channeling like a certain team of guides for your book?
For my book, it's a group energy. Yes. And I was never given so much the names of particular guides, but rather I was more so told that it was not necessary to have these different identities, but rather just to trust in the collective energy that was coming through.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a human thing where we want to name our guides, and they're like, no, like we don't have names. It's like an energy, like a feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There is some kind of higher spiritual teaching there, in the sense that we are all playing different characters, right? Where we have all these different identities that we believe in, but underneath is this underlying essence of spirit that is not identified necessarily by a name or this or that. It's more of a frequency, a vibration.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I want to get back to, I have more questions about this channeling thing. Sorry. And this is actually for selfish reasons for myself. So when I first started doing Reiki, and I'm just kind of curious on what your thoughts are, I guess, things just started like happening. It's kind of like with the example Christy gave about the smoking thing. Like things just move. It almost looks like I'm doing Qigong when I'm giving a Reiki session. It's like I'm physically moving the energy. It's not even really a hands-on treatment for me. It's like I feel their energy and I'm physically moving it. And the more that I Reiki, the more advanced it keeps getting, the faster it is. And I never feel like I'm not in control. So it's like I think I channel kind of like you do. Like I'm very aware and I could stop at any time. But when I just like let it go, it'll just go. And when I met with my Usui Reiki master and I was like, okay, I'm going to show you how I Reiki. And she was kind of taken aback. And then she's like, there's like a being that enters your body. Like saw it when you went to ground me in. And then I was like, what? I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. I don't know if I've ever actually shared that on the podcast. I think it might weird maybe some people out, but
Yeah.
it doesn't ever feel bad at all. And I'm in complete control the whole time. But it's very interesting. And I love how it just moves the energy.
Yeah. So it
It'll do it.
sounds like you are sharing space, so to speak, with a healing guide.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of what it feels like, a healing guide.
Yeah. Well, certainly when we do this work as Reiki practitioners, we naturally, without thought, we call that assistance in to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Whether we're consciously aware of it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, when I see a client, of course, I say I have an invocation that I say, and I invite in the healing angels and my Reiki guides, but I will always say that invocation, but I think they're going to show up with or without the invocation. They're coming.
That's right. Yeah, I've never even thought of that. It's kind of like a ritual to start the session that way. But I bet if I was in a hurry one time and I didn't have time to do it, they would be there in a hurry anyways. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's talk more about your book.
Sure.
So I have to say, Christy, I was telling Christy, I was like, hey, when I started reading this book, like my whole body had a reaction, which I thought was, I don't know if you've heard this before, but it actually felt like the energy in my body was turning on. And then I had a sensation in my third eye started, and I was like, this is really interesting. So when I picked it up, it was like 9 o'clock at night. I was in bed and, just like doing a normal routine. And then I was like, well, did anything else go on today that would warrant this? And I was like, is this the book? And then Christy, you said too that you had a interesting reaction too when you were reading it.
yeah, and it was so weird. I woke up that one morning and all of a sudden I had all this extra time. And I was like, what should I do? And then I looked over, I was like, I'm going to start reading this book. And then you were talking about meditating in the morning. And that's something I've promised myself for so long, but I've never been consistent with. And it was just like that message hit me right in the face. Like I needed to hear that at that moment.
I love that.
Oh, and then it was wild. And then a couple minutes later, or not minutes, sorry, days later, I had the craziest heart-opening experience that I've ever had. Like, you know what I'm like when it just bursts open and you feel the oneness of everyone. And there was like some things that happened to, I think for it to happen, but what am I trying to say here? I believe the book was the thing that started my heart-opening experience.
Yeah. Well, the book, it's more than just words, right? It is holding a particular frequency or vibration that can potentially have some kind of vibratory effect on your being as you sit with it. It's alive.
Yeah.
So honestly, I thought, is there light codes being downloaded into me as I read this? Like
it's very possible. It's very possible.
Ooh,
Yeah.
That just gave me chills. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do sense that when somebody reads the words, they too are connecting with the energies that transmitted the words, but they're connecting with those energies in the present moment, right? Not when I channeled it, but in whatever now moment they're in. And with that connection, there is some kind of experience that occurs, some kind of activation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Like like the book has a consciousness.
Yeah, the book has a consciousness. Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah, the book has a consciousness. Yeah. Yeah,
That
it's
is
pretty
so
wild
neat.
because on the one hand, it's just an inanimate object, right? It's just a book, but it's not just a book. It truly does have a consciousness, a vibration, a frequency.
Yeah, what a
Yeah.
gift. That is just, yeah, that is so neat. I've never experienced that with a book. Like I've had different experiences with books before, but that was something new. And
Yeah.
as I was flipping through it, I feel like it's kind of a book where you could flip through and pick a chapter to read that day. Like it's not necessarily one you'd have to read from front to back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate the sharing about your experience, because as the channel, I have been told that the vibration and the frequency of the book can have that impact on people. And so it's nice to receive that feedback as verification. Yeah. That it's real. It's really happening. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I definitely, I think it's real. And I think you had and obviously the name of the book is Unveiling the Power of the Heart. Yeah, there was definitely a theme about really opening up your heart and connecting in with yourself.
Yeah.
But living in that open heart space is just, it's so powerful. And we tend to, curl our shoulders in and really protect that space. And it's really not the answer, because
No.
then we're not receiving anything into that space either.
Yeah. I know
So,
that. Sorry to interrupt, but I was
no,
just piggybacking on what you were sharing to say that I know for me, much of my journey is really about that, about opening the heart. And as we're all doing our best to do, to get out of the head and into the heart, and to feel, to feel that vibration of love in our hearts. Yeah, this morning I woke up with it for a moment in a new way. I was singing a lot of kirtan last night, a lot of mantras, and and it was, the ego noticing, said, "Oh wow, there it is. It's so sweet." Yeah, that's where the sweetness is.
Yeah, and just having that experience, it's like I want to live in that frequency all the time. Like, do you think
Yeah,
that would be possible, or is it like kind of like ebb and flow, just like everything else?
that's such a great question. I think that's the most powerful question that's been asked so far today, and potentially in a long time. So I think we have the power to make a lot of choices in our lives that support that desire or intention to stay in the heart and to stay in the sweetness of our hearts. I mean, every day, just by way of what we give attention to, the way we speak, we have so many choices that we make that either take us away from our hearts, or that help us settle into our hearts. And I think we're living in a climate right now in the world where it can be easy to actually move away from the heart, right? Because we're living in this world with so much polarity, with so much division, and if we feed into that, and we take sides and get all righteous about it, that's happening here, right? In our egos, in our heads. And so I think we have the power to make choices that keep us in our hearts. And I think one of the most basic choices that we can make is to be of service to others. To potentially just make that the primary motivation of our lives, to be of service to others in a loving way. So I think we have a lot of power to stay there and to keep settling in there and to feel that sweetness. But of course, it is a journey, and we're all human, and it's only natural that we're going to ebb and flow in and out of it. Yeah, I mean, I know certainly I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one moment I am in my head, and I've got what in Buddhist philosophy is called monkey mind, and I'm doing my I should have, I would have, if I, that kind of thing. And then a day or two later, I'm just feeling like the sweetness of my heart. So there is this back and forth that we experience as human beings.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah. But as I reflect upon the channeling of this particular book that we were speaking of, that actually helped me to be in my heart, because there was this actual requirement of me to be in my heart and to open my heart to channel these energies. And so there were times when I was literally told that I was not ready to start voice channeling, that I had to sit in meditation for a longer period of time.
Oh.
Do you find that your frequency or your vibration has to be at a certain point in order for that to come in?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm speaking of. Yeah. It's like there's this meeting that happens, right? We have to raise a little bit, or however you want to label it, open a little bit for spirit to meet us. But I do feel like there is a raising of frequency that is naturally occurring on the planet that's helping to support us in that journey to connect with and to experience spirit.
I actually like what you said there. Instead of raising our frequency, it's opening ourselves up, actually.
Yeah.
I almost resonate with that more, because it's like bring your shoulders back and open yourself up, open your heart up. That's probably the best way to raise that frequency.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm even thinking that too when people are like, well, how do I hear my guides? And I can't seem to hear them, or I can't connect with them. And it's like, you need to open up your heart so that that dial can reach them. That's probably the
Yeah, that's
easiest
it.
way.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the more we can be in that vibration of love and open-heartedness, the more we can connect. And there's kind of a catch-22 there, because it's like in our darkest times, when it seems like we need the most help, that it can be the most challenging to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those moments, we need the support of others. One of my favorite quotes is from Ram Dass, and he said, we're all here to walk each other home.
Oh.
So sometimes we need that help from other human beings to help us to open, and then we can be back in that vibration where we can connect on our own without the support. But sometimes we need help from our friends.
Yeah, that is so true. And those friends that help you, you never forget it either.
Yeah.
No.
That's true. Yeah, I think some of my greatest gifts as a Reiki practitioner have been, receiving really nice thank you letters, really kind words from people that I've helped, and just, taking a moment to take that in and to receive that fulfillment that can only come through the gift of giving. Of course, there's something now being received, right? The thank you, but it was in the giving where the original fulfillment came.
Yeah. We save notes like that, and we'll go back and read through them when we're kind of feeling down, and it's like, right. It's like, yes, open that heart back up.
Best way to get me back. If I'm having one of those ebbs and flows, I'll read those and be like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this. And this is why it fills my heart to hear these people say thank you. And this is what happened, and this changed. And There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I did want to ask you one thing about like I'm doubting that I read this, but I'm pretty sure it said that to meditate twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been focused on the morning meditation. I got to do that, but like what's like the second meditation, would you recommend like doing that at nighttime? Like what would be a benefit at nighttime? Is it like kind of taking out the trash of the mind throughout the day, or like
Yeah, for me personally, it's really necessary at this time in my life to have that wind down time. I'm chuckling to myself because I've recently become addicted to a TV show that I've been watching at night.
hey, that's
But
easy enough.
But hypothetically, okay, don't do what I do. No, but hypothetically, yeah, we should have a good, I say a good hour of technology-free time. Yeah, meaning everything is turned off for meditation, spiritual reading, and prayer and devotion to God. And speaking of which, you had asked me to pull a few cards, yeah, for our listeners.
Yeah.
And one of the three, actually the very first card that I drew is the bedtime prayers.
Oh no way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it was a reminder. It's ironic. All the cards that I pulled were actually really appropriate for me. And I'm guessing that these are themes that are really important for everybody right now, and not just me. But one of them was bedtime prayers. So before bed would be a great time for your second meditation, or any time that feels right to you. Like this morning, I did a short japa meditation, which is a mantra meditation using mala beads. And then I went to an appointment. I came home, and, our minds are so hardwired to do. And so if it were completely up to the personality of Darren probably would have did something action orientated, but there was enough openness to receive the call to sit. And so I sat I had the luxury of doing that today. Yeah. And I know not everybody does, but I sat for another 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, I received a lot of that's really fruitful for my path and for having clarity on my path. And so we have to be open to just taking those meditations whenever we feel guided to. So I say a minimum of 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, preferably an hour, and sometime during the day as well. Yeah, and even if you have a really busy schedule, there's just 5 minutes then, right? 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, something's better than nothing.
Something's better than nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today I was, as I was about to start doing some work, I something guided me to, I forget what I was Googling, but I discovered this, I don't know what you would call it, but this, come on, Darren's brain. This suggestion of doing 52 minutes of work and then taking, I think it was a 17 or 18 minute break. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, I dig that. Yeah. So I think there's always opportunities, you do your work and then you just step back and maybe close your eyes and notice your breath. And yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because sometimes you're right. You get so busy in the doing. It's like just come back to yourself just for those 2 minutes. I always like placing my hands on my heart. And then that brings me like right into my body, like right now.
Yeah, I'm doing it as well.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, you can do the same.
Yeah.
And just notice,
Nice.
notice what changes when you place your hands on your heart. For me, it's this feeling of support. Yeah,
I
it
just
almost feels like for me like a loving paternal support.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
It's almost like time slows down. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
yeah. Time does slow down. Yeah, we
Yeah,
could call
she's-
this the time slowing down meditation.
Yeah. I like
And all
it.
you have to do is, place your left hand on your heart and your right hand on top of your left. Interestingly enough, I spontaneously asked my Reiki client to do this today at the end of our session. And
really?
I never guide Reiki clients to do that, but today I did.
That's interesting. And then
Yeah.
we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there's something about placing one hand and then placing your other hand over top of it. It's like that extra power instead of
It
just the
is.
side, like placing one over the other. It's
Yeah.
like that extra
Absolutely.
energy.
It's like I've got you. I've got you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's nice. As we're all just taking a moment.
Yeah.
I hope you are too, if you can, unless
Yeah.
you're driving. You need.
Yeah. That's the beauty of listening is you can be with us
Yeah.
and have this experience with us.
But I find now, even when I drive, I never put music on anymore. And I used to be listening to stuff all the time, but now I even use that time for quiet time. Because a lot of the time we're driving that same routine, we're kind of in that hypnotic state anyways. We just end up at our destination safely. But I will use that time to like even have that quiet of the mind.
Yeah.
And it's just another way for me to get 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in that I wouldn't normally get. Like when I'm home, it's like, hey, my kids need me, or my kid, and everything else is go, go, go till the end of the day. And then when I try to do that meditation at the end of the day and like unwind, I do because I like to read before bed too, kind of set that frame. But it's just like I'll fall asleep so fast, and then it doesn't feel like I'm getting that connection into spirit as well as I do in the morning, because the morning is my favorite thing. I love
Yeah.
that quiet time. I purposely wake up earlier than everyone else to get that meditation in. It really sets my day. I highly recommend.
I do as well. Yeah. If you're gonna, if you're inspired to do anything after listening to this particular episode, it would be to meditate every morning as soon as you get up before doing anything else.
Oh, right away. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the key. I mean, right from bed to your meditation chair or cushion before you do anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're
'cause
kind of still in that sleepy state, right?
Yeah,
That's
like
correct. Yeah.
receptive.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
got it. You're more receptive. Yeah. Yep. And that's another way to hear, to listen, to receive the guidance that so many are seeking in their lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So have the shower after.
Yeah. And that's also why it's so beneficial for people to receive Reiki, is because that's also an opportunity to relax and be still, and often in that stillness some kind of inspiration or intuition bubbles up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that about Reiki. Things
Yeah.
will just slowly come out from the shadows when it's ready, and when it's time to be released and healed, it'll come up, and hopefully you even have an emotional, physical release of it, and you can just let it out. Darren, what was your biggest takeaway of the book? Was it the heart opening? Was that your favorite part of it? Or do you have a favorite part of it? I really liked how you touched on manifesting, actually, because I feel like that is exactly right. That frequency that you bring off, if you want more of it, that's exactly what you're going to attract in. So being aware of that. And you actually wrote a book all about manifesting too, I saw. Is that right?
I did. Yeah, that was my first book. It's called Create Your Dream Life Now, a workbook and guide for manifesting your destiny. And it's more of a traditional, when I say traditional, maybe not to some people, but yeah, it just works you through steps to create what it is you're seeking to create in your life. But these days, my manifestation process and practice is pretty simple. This morning, I noticed the brand of my cereal that I'm having, and it's called 3 Wishes. And I thought, well, that's nice. 3 wishes. And it just kind of hit me. Yeah, I think it's a good practice to just have focus on 3 prayers or 3 things that you want to bring into your life at one time, so you don't get overwhelmed. And so, yeah, so I was inspired to write down 2 and leave the third open. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and the first was the right bandmates, and the second was the right partner, and the third was empty. So we'll see what that one becomes. Yeah, and then I just think if we just focus a little loving attention on it, on each one, that does the trick, and the universe knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like having three to focus on.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm all over the map some days, and it's like, okay, what do we want? Like, let's focus.
Right. Yeah. 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 I've had that habit too. A psychic reader once said to me that I need to bring it in.
Yeah, bring it in. Yeah.
Was his guidance. I'm circling back to the question that I did not answer, which was what was my greatest takeaway from the book. Right now, what's coming through is just to be yourself. Yeah, and to honor whatever your gifts are.
Yeah.
And to not be afraid of them. And before I picked the cards for the listeners, that was coming through for me as a message today, just to believe in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I definitely need to do more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all do sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think the healer looks or should look a certain way. And that's not true. Like, it comes in many boxes and shapes and sizes, and you don't need to be wearing a orange robe, or you don't.
Yeah,
You can
that's
just
great.
be who you are, and it's special and it's unique and it's you. And with everybody waking up right now, it's like we need more people here to anchor the energy that's coming in and to help others who are just waking up. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even if you're not a Reiki practitioner or a channel, it's all good.
Yeah.
You can literally create like a huge change in somebody's life by simply like actually just being present with them for a moment and smiling and being heart-centered and being authentically grateful.
Yes. That's so true.
Yeah.
The gift of presence, like that's huge. When you're like fully with someone and you're like, oh, okay, I didn't hear that the first time, but now I'm hearing it a different way. Yeah.
That's the greatest gift that you can offer somebody is your full attention and presence.
Yeah. Because nowadays there's so many distractions. It's sometimes hard to be completely present with someone, but it's just like a muscle. You can, or more reps.
It is. Yeah. It really is like a muscle. Yeah. Yep, you got it.
So we asked Darren to pull some cards for the listeners to close out the episode. So what were the other 2 cards that you pulled?
The other 2 cards that I pulled were playfulness, and ironically, I was on the receiving end of an intuitive reading recently, and the reader said, I need more playfulness in my life. Yeah. And I think we all do. Because I think most of us, not all of us, but most of us take our lives and ourselves way too seriously. And we need to loosen up and have more fun and be like kids again. And so I encourage you to add some playfulness into your life, even if you have to make yourself a little uncomfortable to do it. And the other card I received was inspiration. And that inspiration, so much of what we've spoken of today opens the portal to receive that inspiration. Yeah. Receiving Reiki, meditation, driving in silence, meditating when you get up, meditating before you go to bed. For me, just to give you an example of this and how it can appear in our lives. Today, I received not Reiki, but I received something called cranial sacral therapy. And that's another, I was very relaxed, yes. And when I'm relaxed, things kind of pop up. And I heard, I'm a musician. Music is one of my greatest passions. I lead kirtan, which is the call and response singing of mantra music at yoga studios. It's a devotional practice, devotion to God through song. And while I was lying on the table in stillness, yes, I heard the word Moby, who, as I'm sure everybody out there knows, is a musical artist. And of course, I was like, Moby, well, that's interesting. And then there was some kind of stream of guidance that came in for me after hearing that, which was that it would be fun for me to record a new song in a different style than I've become accustomed to leading my kirtan in. And rather than playing my guitar or whatever instrument I normally play, just to be free to sing. Yeah, and to walk around the room with a microphone. And Moby was to be my inspiration. So this afternoon, I listened to some Moby just for like 5 minutes. And afterwards, I wrote a new song that I'm thrilled with.
Wow.
So for those of you out there who are, would like more inspiration in your lives, yeah, it's interesting because when we seek inspiration in our lives, often there is the tendency to think, okay, I have to, go here, go there, do this, do that. I have to really seek out inspiration. But I find that inspiration actually comes in the silence, right? In the space between. Receiving Reiki, for example, yeah, meditating. And so if you are in need of inspiration, perhaps explore that, yeah? More time for meditation, more Reiki, more stillness. So, bedtime prayers, playfulness, and inspiration.
I love it.
Yeah, that totally wraps it up so nicely. And it just shows, when we do get that guidance, it's so good to follow the breadcrumbs. Like if you would have just dismissed Moby, it's like, oh,
Right.
whatever. But like you followed it and look at what it turned into, a whole new song. Like that's so amazing.
Yeah. And I do believe that when we place our attention on something, that it grows.
Yeah.
And I think something I've been learning in my life lately that we were speaking to a little bit earlier is, the need for focus and concentration on what we're most passionate about in life. Yeah. What brings us the most joy, but is also purposeful and of service to others.
And do more of that.
And do more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I recently delivered a message about someone about being more joy and bringing that childlike energy. So now I'm hearing it again. I'm starting to think if that's supposed to be for me because it definitely
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah,
it's for all of us. Yeah,
definitely.
it's for all of us.
All right.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us today. It was really fun talking with you and just hearing all your knowledge. I really love it. And I love hearing somebody else's experience too, talking about the attunements, especially because I actually went down a rabbit hole thinking about the attunements and I wanted to know what other people's experience were because I was about to give them. And then I thought, what if people like don't think this is going to be anything? And I'm just so glad you kind of solidified why people get attunements and how that helps them open up. And I really took that as a big takeaway today.
Great, yeah. And I know when I teach, I always share that there's no right or wrong way to experience an attunement. That if you just feel relaxed, that's enough. Yeah, it's the attunement is still happening, and you're receiving what you're meant to receive. And if you have a more mystical experience, that's fine too. But it's all good, and it's always that infinite intelligence of Reiki is always directing the attunement for the highest good of the person who is receiving it. I truly, truly, truly believe that. And I know that when two people show up, teacher and student, in that agreement, that by way of, I call it grace, by way of grace, they receive the attunement.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, there's like no right or wrong way to receive an attunement, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on. Okay, so where can people find you?
People can find me at awakenwithdarren.com. And I have all of my information is up there, including the opportunity to book intuitive guidance sessions via Zoom and to potentially attend some virtual gatherings, group gatherings as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to find the book there.
Yes,
as well.
yes, yeah. If you go to my website, just click on. There's a link right on the top of the screen that'll take you to the appropriate website to purchase the book as well.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone like reads this book, reach out to us and let us know what your experience was reading it. I'm really quite curious since Christy and I had such a profound one. It makes you want to buy it and just see because it's quite a powerful book reading that. So congratulations to you. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, and just as this is just coming through spontaneously now, just as a special offer to anybody who's listening, if you do choose to book an intuitive guidance session with me online, let me know that you heard about it on this podcast, and I'll offer you a 15% discount on an intuitive guidance session.
Amazing. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice. Okay. Well, great. And we'll put all your information in the show notes so people can access that really easily.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Amanda and Christy. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was great. I really enjoyed that. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Hey, thank you.
You're so welcome.